Hello, my name is Sophia, and I'm 35 years old. I'd like to share a turning point in my life, a moment that required quick thinking, as I am someone who doesn't easily fall prey to manipulation. Contrary to many tales of in-law drama, I had a genuinely warm relationship with my mother-in-law. At first, everything felt effortless between us, filled with mutual respect and understanding, and with my husband, Gerald, by my side, my partner, soulmate, and the love of my life, our marriage felt like something out of a fairy tale. Everything seemed perfect, like we had it all figured out. This wasn't a fantasy, I promise. Of course, like any family, we had our small squabbles, but there were no signs of anything troubling. Life was stable, predictable, and happy. That was, until a series of unexpected events unfolded, catching me completely off guard. I'm about to tell you what happened and why I felt I had no choice but to seek revenge on both my husband and my mother-in-law. I had organized something extraordinary, a vacation that was originally meant to be just for Gerald and me. But knowing how lonely Kayla, my widowed mother-in-law, could be, I decided to include her in our plans. I went all out, covering nearly every expense for the trip, accommodations, meals, activities, leaving only extra costs for Gerald and Kayla to handle. I planned for us to have a once-in-a-lifetime experience in Italy, exploring the lively streets of Barcelona, savoring fresh antipasti, and basking in the Mediterranean sunshine. I was beyond excited about the opportunity to create lasting memories, to bond with both of them, and to strengthen our family ties. Little did I know, this trip would unravel everything I thought I knew. On that fateful day, brimming with excitement for our Italian adventure, I stood in the living room with tickets in hand, eager to reveal the surprise. Gerald and Kayla stood before me, clearly puzzled by my enthusiasm. With a flourish, I unveiled the tickets, expecting their smiles to mirror mine. Gerald's face lit up with genuine excitement. "Sophia, you really are something special," he said, his voice full of appreciation. My heart swelled as I anticipated the trip of a lifetime. Kayla, too, offered a softer smile, her eyes meeting mine with a knowing look. "Oh, my dear Sophia, you've truly outdone yourself. This is more than I could have ever imagined," she said warmly. I'm deeply touched. In that moment, I basked in the satisfaction of their gratitude, confident that this trip would be the perfect way to bond, to fortify the love and harmony I believed we had. It felt like a dream come true until reality had other plans. Yet, as you might expect, our seemingly perfect story soon spiraled into something far darker. Beneath the surface of our close-knit family dynamic lay a web of deceit and betrayal, quietly ready to unravel everything. When the truth surfaced, it tested the very core of what it meant to forgive and the idea of family itself. As planned, we set off for our long-awaited adventure, boarding the plane with excitement and anticipation. The first week in Italy was everything I had hoped for, immersing ourselves in the rich local culture, enjoying delicious dishes like jambalaya, visiting historic landmarks, and dancing to the lively rhythms of flamenco. The air was filled with laughter, joy, and a sense of togetherness that reassured me nothing could ever break the bond we shared. But little did I know, beneath the laughter, a storm was silently brewing, preparing to devastate me. One sunny Monday morning, I awoke to find myself alone in an empty hotel room. A knot of confusion and dread formed in my chest as I frantically called both Gerald and Kayla, desperate for any sign of them. But the phone calls were met with silence. No answers, no messages. Panic set in as I searched the empty room, hoping to find some trace of where they had gone. No bags, no notes, nothing, just an eerie quiet that suffocated the air. I was alone, in a foreign country, and the isolation felt suffocating. Just when despair threatened to overtake me, my phone buzzed with a call from Kayla. A mix of relief and confusion flooded over me. How could they have just left without a word? With shaking hands, I answered. my voice barely a whisper of worry and disbelief. Kayla, where are you? What's going on? I asked, panic creeping into my tone. Her voice, though on the other end, felt distant and detached. It was nothing like the familiar warmth I had come to expect. Sophia, I'm calling because your phone kept ringing, she said, her words laced with annoyance. I'm sorry, I was just worried, I stammered. You and Gerald are gone, your bags are missing, and I had no idea what happened. I was scared something was wrong. But her next words struck with a coldness that left me reeling, as though she had discarded all the warmth of our relationship. We left you. The words hung in the air, impossible to grasp. What? Why? Did I do something wrong? Kayla's tone was sharp, her frustration palpable. Honestly, Sophia, how could you not see it? You just planned this trip and assumed I'd be fine tagging along. I couldn't keep pretending. A few hours at a family gathering is one thing, but 3 weeks? I couldn't do it. I tried, but a week in, and I was losing my mind. I'm sorry, but Gerald and I are heading to the airport now. We can't stay with you any longer. The shock hit me like a physical blow. I felt the delicate trust we had built unraveling, thread by thread. How could everything I thought we had, everything I believed in, crumble so quickly? My heart raced with a whirlwind of questions. What had gone wrong? How did it escalate this far? Was there any hope of fixing this? The sting of betrayal burned deep within me, leaving a void where the love I had once felt seemed to vanish entirely. I didn't know you felt like this, Kayla, I said, my voice shaky, barely a whisper. I never meant to. I didn't think. I was still reeling from the conversation, the weight of it pressing down on me. Why didn't you bring this up earlier? Why not sit down with me so we could discuss whatever issues we had? I asked, my voice tinged with disbelief. I genuinely couldn't fathom how we had gotten to this point. I don't understand what I've done to offend you. Kayla's response was not what I expected. That's the thing, Sophia. I can't pinpoint it either, she admitted, her voice tinged with frustration. But you just irk me, she said, almost dismissively. I was stunned. What? That's incredibly childish, I shot back, the shock evident in my voice. You can't stand me just because you're irked by something you can't even explain? Kayla, you need to grow up. I thought I had done something to truly upset her, but now it was clear there was no concrete reason for her behavior. Not necessarily, she continued, her words casual yet cutting, but that doesn't change how I feel. You annoy me, Sophia, and I just can't stand being around you. My heart sank. If that's how you feel, why agree to come on this trip in the first place? I asked, struggling to comprehend her actions. Kayla's response came with a hint of flippancy. Because it was a free trip to Italy. Who would turn that down? But as each day passed, I found myself getting more and more irritated by your behavior. What behavior, Kayla? What did I do that was so terrible you felt the need to leave me stranded in a foreign country? I pressed, feeling the confusion building. This was far beyond what I had imagined when I planned the trip. She paused, silence hanging in the air for longer than I could bear. It felt like the conversation was slipping further into chaos, with no resolution in sight. I was hurt, angry, and deeply confused, but beneath it all, sadness overwhelmed me. I needed answers, and the only person left to talk to was Gerald. When Kayla handed me the phone, it was almost casual, as though she assumed Gerald had been listening to our conversation the entire time. His voice on the other end was just as detached as his mother's. Hello, Gerald. You decided to leave me too? I asked, my voice barely a whisper of disbelief. I didn't leave because I don't like you. I left because my mother needed me to take her home, Gerald explained, his voice flat and emotionless. So you knew about all of this? I asked, the weight of the question sinking in. How long have you been aware of your mother's dislike for me? For some time now, he admitted. I was hoping this trip would help her feel closer to you. But obviously, I was wrong. Why didn't either of you talk to me about this? I demanded. We're adults. If there's an issue, we should be able to talk it through. We've dealt with problems before. Why is it different now? Gerald didn't answer, his silence echoing the same emptiness I had felt from Kayla. In that moment, it became painfully clear his mother's resentment wasn't something I could resolve, and it wasn't something either of them was willing to confront head-on. As her vague excuses filled the air, it dawned on me that Kayla might not even understand why she felt the way she did. Was it jealousy? Or had I become a reflection of something she resented? Her refusal to engage seemed like a way to avoid facing the truth, or perhaps, to avoid sounding as ridiculous as I now felt. Am I right in thinking you're avoiding the real issues here? I asked, my voice firm. The silence that followed was all the confirmation I needed. I'm genuinely shocked. I never imagined you both felt this way about me. I continued, still reeling from the revelation. The weight of the situation pressed down on me. I hope you have a safe flight back. Without another word, I ended the call, my mind racing as I began pacing the hotel room, trying to piece together everything that had just unfolded. 35 years of life had taught me that people sometimes harbor resentment for reasons they can't articulate, often driven by jealousy, insecurity, or bitterness. But to face that from my own family, that was something I hadn't prepared for. As the tears welled up, I found myself at a crossroads, realizing in that very moment that I was no longer going to let others dictate my fate. The betrayal had been unprovoked, and it was time to take control of my own story. This was a pivotal moment, a shift in perspective that would forever change the course of my life. Wiping my tears away, a surge of determination rose within me. I wouldn't allow their disregard to go unchallenged. It was time to show them that they couldn't walk all over me without facing the consequences. With trembling hands, I dialed Nathan's number. He was my childhood friend, someone I trusted implicitly, someone who understood my unspoken thoughts. After recounting the painful details of what had happened, I cautiously asked for his help in seeking some form of justice. Nathan, ever the loyal and sometimes mischievous friend, listened intently. His voice was a mix of concern and an odd excitement. Sophia, you're a force to be reckoned with. You know you can count on me. What's the plan? I hesitated for a moment, then shared my idea. You know how your construction company always has excess sawdust? The kind that's such a pain to get rid of? Yeah, that stuff's a nightmare to clean up, he replied, intrigued by where this was going. Well, I think I've found the perfect use for it, I said, a sense of calm determination in my voice as I laid out my plan. We were going to deliver bags of sawdust to Kayla's house, ensuring it found its way into every crevice and unspoken, chaotic reminder of the harm she'd done to me. Nathan couldn't help but laugh, imagining the scene. Sophia, this is brilliant. You've really thought this through. A satisfied grin spread across my face as I felt the rush of vindication. This was going to be a quiet, calculated revenge, something Kayla would never forget. The thought of her confronting the mess gave me a sense of control I hadn't felt in ages. With Nathan's expertise and my resolve, we moved forward. Our biggest hurdle was getting inside the house before they returned. You need to use the spare key under the potted plant on the patio, I instructed, a detail Nathan had always remembered from past visits. Wow, you really have this all figured out, Nathan remarked, impressed by how meticulous I'd become. I'm not usually the petty type, I said, a smirk creeping onto my lips, but if they're going to be petty, I'm more than ready to outdo them. As the hours passed, the anticipation built. Finally, Nathan sent me a text confirming the mission was complete. My heart raced as I realized that the message was more than just about revenge. It was a message to myself that I would never again let someone walk all over me. The fallout from our carefully orchestrated plan was about to unfold, and I couldn't wait to see it. Then, like a melody playing in the distance, my phone chimed with a message from Nathan. I opened the pictures he had sent, and what I saw made my heart race. Kayla's once pristine home now looked like a chaotic scene from a dystopian movie, consumed by a sea of sawdust. Every corner had been touched, each pile a silent reminder of the chaos she had brought into my life. I immediately dialed Nathan's number, and the sound of his laughter filled my ear. It was so infectious that I couldn't help but join in. It was as if a weight had been lifted, a release of all the pent-up frustration and anger I'd been carrying. Together, we had pulled off something unexpected, something that felt just right. Naughty can be so satisfying, my friend. Nathan chuckled, his amusement matching my own. I thanked him deeply for being by my side in this daring act of defiance. As time passed, the anticipation of their reaction gnawed at me. I could already picture Gerald and Kayla's stunned faces when they walked into their once perfect home, now a testament to their betrayal. A rush of nerves and vindication washed over me. Hours later, my phone buzzed urgently, jolting me from my thoughts. It was Gerald, his voice a mix of panic and disbelief. He described the chaotic scene before him, Kayla's house, now buried under a mountain of sawdust. The sight was a stark reminder of their deception, and my heart swelled with satisfaction as I listened to his desperate explanations. At that moment, I knew my message had been received loud and clear. There were consequences to their actions, and they were now experiencing the full force of the turmoil they had caused. Sophia, it's awful. My mother is beside herself, Gerald said, his voice strained. I decided it was the perfect time to reveal my involvement. It serves you both right. How could you just leave me stranded without a real reason? I replied, my tone firm. Sophia, was this your doing? Gerald's voice faltered, and the background noise in the house went quiet. Then, I heard Kayla's sharp voice demanding the phone. Give me that, she shouted into the earpiece, her fury unmistakable. How could you do this to us? To me? I have no idea what you're talking about, I replied coolly, a hint of satisfaction creeping into my voice. Have you ever considered this might just be karma? Oh, come on, Sophia. We all know it was you. Who else would have access to my house? Kayla snapped, her voice laced with accusation. It's surprisingly easy to break into homes these days, Kayla, especially when there are no security cameras. You might want to consider installing some, to avoid situations like this in the future, I said, my voice dripping with smug satisfaction. Sophia, how could you do this? Where are we supposed to sleep? The sawdust is everywhere. It's even making my lungs hurt, she whined. Oh, that's a real shame, I replied, feigning sympathy. You probably forgot I had the keys to my house. Huh, well, too bad. You'll need to find another hotel, I suppose. But for how long? Until I decide to return from my vacation, I guess. I paid for 3 weeks, after all, and who knows, I might even extend my stay. Just then, Gerald grabbed the phone from her, and Kayla resumed her complaining, her voice barely audible over her frustration. Sophia, this is disgusting. How could you do this to us? He demanded, his voice tight with anger. I don't know why you're assuming I had anything to do with it. How could I? I'm currently lounging in the hotel jacuzzi. How would I possibly manage something like this? I responded, my tone completely innocent, masking my amusement. I could barely contain my laughter as I listened to their confusion. They were both so flustered, scrambling for answers, but all they had were suspicions, no proof, no evidence, just a gut feeling that it was me, and I relished in it. knowing they were stewing in frustration while still having no concrete way to direct their anger. As I ended the call with Gerald, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction. I had reclaimed control over my own story, leaving them to grapple with the mess they had caused. I knew my actions were extreme, even reckless, considering Kayla's health risk from spending the night in that sawdust-covered home. It could have triggered some serious issues for her, but I was confident they wouldn't actually stay there. The house was in no condition to be lived in. They'd have to book a hotel for a while longer. Since I had no intention of letting my money go to waste, I extended my stay in Italy for another week. I could continue to enjoy the culture, knowing they were stuck dealing with the fallout. Meanwhile, my husband and mother-in-law would likely be scrambling to find a cleaning service willing to tackle the enormous mess. It would take time I was sure they'd rather spend somewhere else, but I wasn't concerned. In the meantime, I suspected my mother-in-law would end up at my home, something that would no doubt irritate her to no end, given her distaste for my company. Sometimes, people need to learn the hard way, and if you ever find yourself in a position to deliver your own brand of justice, don't hesitate. Give them something real to be upset about. After all, sometimes the only way to get your point across is to take bold, decisive action, no matter how messy it might be.